And did you ever feel like you had to choose between her and the kids?
Always. I mean, I told her too. There were some arguments that got really down to the nitty gritty. And I said, if you want me to choose between you and the kids, you know what the answer is going to be.
You're listening to the Nacho Kids Podcast, where we discuss all things step-family related. Real stories, real people, real help. Your hosts are the creators of the Nacho Kids Method and the Nacho Kids Academy Step Family Coaching Team, Lori and David Sims.
Welcome to episode 131 of the Nacho Kids Podcast.
Yeah, that's right. 131 reasons.
I'm doing good. I'm doing better with the podcast.
Yeah, you are.
Before I forget, the winner of the Sylvia Krakauer Nacho Kids Academy Scholarship this week is, drum roll, David, Jay Littleton. Woo! Congratulations, Jay Littleton. Look for an email from Nacho Kids and we will get you set up.
All right.
David, I don't know if you remember us talking about this, but last week we had stepmom Paula.
Mm-hmm. This week we have her husband, right?
Yes, we have her husband, Robert.
See, I remember some things.
I'm very impressed.
I am too, honestly.
Well, I do want to say I forgot to ask him during the interview. I know, shocker, that I forgot something. How he felt when Paula started nachoing. And he said he felt betrayed because the children whose mother completely abandoned them needed someone who can be there for them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a challenge. But I wonder why he didn't feel like he could be the one there for them.
Well, now I'm speaking for him. I'm guessing that he felt that he could in some ways, but that they still needed that motherly figure.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to make me have to do another podcast with him and you talk to him. Of course, after you finish the podcast, you start thinking, oh, crap, I should have asked this and I should have asked that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're probably right. He probably felt like there needed to be that additional, side of things. And not that that's wrong by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not easy to just bring somebody in and say, you're going to be the other side of the coin. Mm-hmm. You're going to fulfill a role that you didn't know was there because I know that it needs to be done. And, it's not like I could tell you that on a date. Hey, my kids need somebody to fill in since their mom is, not there. You good with that?
Can't you see your first date and you're talking to this person that you just met and you say, well, I am looking for a relationship, but I'm also looking for a mom for my kids or a dad for my kids.
Yeah. It's funny because I think most people will go out of their way to say the opposite.
Yes.
It's like, I just want you to know I don't need somebody.
Yeah. I ain't looking for no daddy for my kid.
Yep.
But here's the thing. I wasn't looking for a daddy for Jackson, but I also knew that whoever he was around most of the time, since I had full custody, would be a big influence on him.
You was looking for a sugar daddy.
No. David, you had 4 kids. There wasn't no sugar in that daddy. You ain't going to laugh or nothing?
I am laughing. You don't hear me?
No, I couldn't hear you.
I lost my breath laughing.
Yeah. But seriously, I knew that whoever was going to be around Jackson needed to be a good influence on him. And so, of course, I didn't want just a piece of crap.
So you gave up and married me?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. I got tired of trying. He ain't too bad. Pick him. Yeah. Why not?
Why not?
Yeah. If it don't work, we'll always get divorced.
I'm glad you settled.
Me too, David. I'm so glad I settled for you. That sounds horrible. I did not settle for you.
I'm glad you had low expectations.
All right, time to change the subject, apparently. Again. So we have finished Thanksgiving last week.
I don't know. I don't think I've finished it yet. I'm still in the food coma.
We ate way too much. But when this releases, it will be December.
Then it'll be time to do all these parties and eat tons more stuff again.
I know. I was looking at our calendar and we have no free time.
Oh, I know. I was telling people in October, you better get stuff booked because my time's running out quickly.
So, David, I've been trying to think of what to get you for Christmas. And
I've already ordered it.
what?
I've already ordered what you're getting me for Christmas.
You can't do that.
Well, you do it every year.
It don't matter what I do. We don't play goose gander.
Well, what are we playing?
Lori does what she wants to, and David follows the rules. Duh.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see the rules of the game.
How long have we been married again?
120 years.
Well, then you need to bust out your marriage book again.
All right. So what are you getting me for Christmas then?
Nothing.
Okay. But that's easy.
You got the Star Wars shotgun or whatever for our anniversary. That's enough for Christmas, too.
Wait a minute. How does that work?
Because I didn't get nothing for our anniversary.
You did. You said you didn't want anything.
So how did I get something then?
I got you something. I just can't remember what it was right off.
No, you didn't, because I didn't order me anything. So, see, you're in the hole.
No, wait a minute. I got you a new refrigerator. And
David.
And a new flooring in the kitchen.
No.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. You got to pick it all out.
So, David, you're getting coal from Santa. I have already placed that order. For those that don't know, you can order coal for Christmas.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
We got plenty of that in the yard.
All right, so let's talk about our guest a few more seconds before we bore these people to death with what you're not buying me for Christmas because you're a bad husband.
You said you didn't want anything for Christmas.
I ain't figured out what I'm going to get yet.
See, exactly.
I'm waiting for the sale on the Freebird website.
Oh, gosh.
It might be after Christmas.
I asked you, like, what do you want for Christmas? You go, oh, nothing, darling. But I know what's happening.
Okay,
what
everybody knows that's a lie. I don't say nothing, darling.
Okay, you just said nothing.
Yeah.
I don't want anything, which I know is code word for don't you dare buy me something. I'll buy what I want.
Well, I did find a pair of shoes I wanted, but they were out of my size.
Good.
No, not good.
You don't need shoes.
You don't need to tell me what I need.
You walk around
Shh. David, you hear that silence? It's like Silent Night. Such a beautiful song. All right. So Robert, our guest today, for those of you that did not listen to the podcast last week with Robert's wife, Paula, you can do so. It's episode 130. But I will give you a little bit of backstory if you haven't listened to that episode. They've been blending for 7 years, married for 3, and Robert has 10 bio kids. That's the same sound you made when I said it with Paula, David.
It still hurts me.
I know. I still can't get over it. He had been married twice. First marriage resulted in 3 kids. Second marriage resulted in 7 kids.
I wonder what it was like him going on vacation, because I know with me having 4 kids, if I got into the pool, all the women got out. It's like...
David.
What?
Are you serious or are you making jokes?
I'm serious. Like, they were scared to death. Like, I don't know what's in the water, but it ain't touching me. No.
Were you running around naked?
No, but that's how crazy you women are.
Oh. Okay. We get to hear things from Robert's perspective, which is great. We hear a lot from the stepmom's perspective, but now we get to hear from the bio dad's perspective.
Yeah. What you laughing at?
David is full of words, y'all. Full of words.
That's better than what you said I was full of earlier.
Here's a kicker, too. Paula is 19 years younger than him.
Oh, Lord.
Mm-hmm. Don't be scared, David.
You go, Robert.
There you go. I was waiting for that. A delayed reaction.
I had to get your permission.
And not surprisingly, things started to change when they moved into the house that Paula had bought.
Why is that?
Surprise. David, tell us why it's that way with anything.
Because it was her house and they had to go by her rules.
Anytime there is a major event in a blend, whether it's an hour's child being born, moving into a different home, even people retiring, it often tends to reset the blend.
So the stepmom was being unreasonable is what you're saying.
David. All right, y'all. I'm done with him. I'm done. So y'all do what you got to do. Keep listening because it gets better because David quits talking. David, do your spiel.
All right. But first, here's a word about the Academy.
There is a way to save your sanity and your relationship, and it's called the Nacho Kids Academy. In the Nacho Kids Academy, you will learn the skills and knowledge to properly nacho, techniques to handle step family challenges, ways to improve your communication, and much, much more. Visit NachoKidsAcademy.com and sign up today to join other step parents who are seeing the life-changing benefits of nachoing. Again, that's NachoKidsAcademy.com.
Today, we have an awesome man on our podcast, Robert. Hey, Robert, how are you?
Good. How about you, Lori? Excited to be here.
Good. So glad to have you. We have requests constantly, put more men on there, put more men. I'm glad that you decided to do this. And your wife was actually a guest on our podcast recently.
Yes, she's been following Nacho Kids for, I think, half a year now or so.
It's going to be good to hear your side of things.
Always.
Is she there monitoring your call?
No, she's getting ready to go to work.
I know a lot of people will say, she's sitting here listening to me. I can't tell you everything.
Well, I did tell her, I said, there might be things I say on here that you're not going to like. So I preface it.
It's like on Family Feud when they'll say, we asked 100 men, what could your wife do to be better in like the sex department? And the men they'll answer and they'll say, oh, but I'm not talking about my wife.
Exactly.
All right. How long have y'all been blending?
We've been blending for 7 years, almost 7.5 years, actually.
Okay. And how many bio kids do you have, Robert?
Well, I have 10 bio kids.
And my reaction is going to be the same as when she told me that.
Yeah.
Holy moly.
Yeah, I'm married twice. I have 3 children from my first marriage, 7 children from my second marriage.
All biological.
All biological, yes. That's true.
10 kids.
Correct. And when Paula and I met in 2010, when she came more into our lives, I was raising the 7 boys by myself.
Wow.
Yeah.
How often are they with you? I mean, I know some of them are older now, but do they visit their mom?
Well, the oldest 3, they have a great relationship with their mom, and they're 40, 36, and 34. So they're adults and doing their thing and doing relatively well.
Mm-hmm.
But the 7 that I have with my second wife have not communicated with her, or at least had any contact both ways, for probably 2 or 3 years now.
That is so sad.
Yeah, it's a difficult situation. That their mom has what undiagnosed bipolar type tendency, so that adds to what goes on there.
Right. Does she live close to y'all?
She lives about 2 hours away.
Okay, so they don't run into her in town or anything like that.
No, that would not be something that would probably not happen. Correct.
She doesn't even call to check on them or anything?
She doesn't typically. Usually one of the 7 will reach out to her near maybe her birthday or something, but it's no reciprocal calling back.
Wow. That has got to be so hard on your kids.
Yes, it manifests itself in different ways. And part of the challenge with Paula is that abandonment issue that they still face, and how it affects their relationship with Paula.
Right. I think we talked with Paula about how she can be viewed to them as a reminder that their mom's not there.
Yes, I agree with that. And I think, well, as we talk, they're pulling away from Paula, which has been happening, is related to not getting too close because the first mother figure in her life checked out, and they can't get too close with Paula because she's going to check out.
Right.
And so they sort of put that wall up.
Yeah, it's a defense mechanism.
Yeah, it is. And it's hard not to have them react that way. And even though I've had them through therapy, it's still underlying, always there.
Yeah, it's never going to go away. And what's sad is graduations, they're going to be wishing their mom was there. When they get married, when their first child, all this stuff, that she's not going to be there. And hopefully they will embrace Paula being there and it not be so much of a reminder that mom's not there.
Yeah, I feel that, well, Paula's been consistently here, of course, for the whole time period and has done a lot of things for the family to get us in a different stage of life. And they, I think, realize that, but still are very guarded with their relationship with her.
Right. Well, think about it. Relationships that we've been in where, say, for instance, I was cheated on. Well, I'm a lot more cautious in the next relationship, and I have that wall up to protect myself from getting hurt again.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah. I just realized out of all 10 kids, you have one girl.
That's true. She's second oldest. Everybody asks, were you trying for a girl? But no. And I just found out, just a side note, she is pregnant, is going to have a baby next June. So I'm excited.
Oh, that is so exciting. Will that be your first grandbaby?
No, I have 2 granddaughters. One granddaughter who's 6 now from my son, Gunther, who had her at a very young age of 16.
Okay.
He and his girlfriend were trying to make that work for a year. And in the end, both of them were not in the place they could. So they ended up doing an open adoption.
Oh, okay.
So that's difficult. Yeah. And then my son, Noah, who's the oldest of the 7, let's put it that way. He had my second granddaughter, she'll be 4 years old this November.
Okay.
So this will be my 3rd grandchild.
So the oldest grandchild, do you still have a relationship with her?
No, it's been difficult. I've had pictures sent, some updates, but Gunther, which is the father, has not really been as involved as I'd like him to be. So it's been difficult to keep that communication open.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's so hard when basically kids have kids.
Yes.
And, we don't know what's going through his head. He could think it's better for the child if I'm not involved. It's hard for me to see the child because it's just a reminder of what happened and I'm not able to take care of her or we weren't able to stay together. I mean, there's a lot that goes with that.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what goes through his head. He was really a very involved father during the first year or two, was doing as much as he can. So I'm sure it's painful for him, but he, because of different things that he struggled with, in the end knew that he wasn't able to support her. And as much as difficult as it's been for me to accept that, it's probably the best for his daughter.
Did you ever consider helping him keep the child?
No, partly because at the same time I was still raising, at that time, probably 5 in the house, and I work a lot of hours. Therefore, it would have been a huge struggle to do that. I did not.
Right. And this was before Paula came into the picture.
Right, sort of the same time. And where Paul and I were going, we weren't sure exactly how it was going to work out. There wasn't a definite support. And I was doing everything that would have been too much on my plate.
Right.
Yeah.
That's got to be such a hard thing for everybody. I can see where you would want to have a relationship with your granddaughter, but with it being an open adoption, it's going to be kind of hard if the dad's not involved because he's kind of the link between y'all two.
That's it. That's exactly right. He is the link. And when that link isn't as strong as it could be, or I think in the last year, it's gotten even worse. It's difficult.
Well, just out of curiosity, would you feel comfortable talking to the adoptive parents and telling them that you would want to see her occasionally?
Yeah, I would feel comfortable. Yeah, I would. I would feel comfortable. I think I could reach out to them.
Yeah. I would encourage you to reach out to them to see your granddaughter because, first of all, the fact that you still include her as your granddaughter says a lot.
Yeah, it was difficult getting to be so close to her and then watching her not be able to be as involved in my life as I'd like to be.
Yeah, I bet it ripped your heart out.
Yes. So I can imagine how my son Gunther probably thinks about it every day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we don't know what the future holds. So hopefully he'll be able to realize that he has that opportunity to still be a part of her life in some way that might help him heal also.
Yeah, that's what I hope also.
Yeah. So if you've got 10 kids, if each one of them has 2 kids, you're going to have 20 grandkids.
A lot of people that I meet, because I meet a fair amount of people, my profession, I'm a finance manager at an auto dealership. And I have pictures in my office with kids everywhere. And many people say that, oh, you're going to have 20, 30 grandchildren. But my oldest children, except for Megan now, she finally is going to have a child, have no partners. So I think, well, they're never going to have children.
Well, the 40-year-old has the 4-year-old, right?
No. He's the oldest of the first 3.
Okay.
My 26-year-old, which is Noah, he's the oldest of the 7. So that's how I sort of separate in my head. I have the first 3. He's the oldest of the 7. He's the one who gave the grandchild 4 years ago at a fairly young age too. But he's managed to work it out, even though recently he and the bio mom have separated.
And that sucks too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's sort of fresh. It happened last March, and he's struggling with it, but doing the best he can. And we're trying to work out, as you know, visitation and who gets her when. And I've been through that. Of course, I've been divorced twice. So yeah.
Yeah. So you've got a lot of experience.
Yeah. So he comes to me for advice, and I do the best I can. But as you know, there is no easy way to get through that process.
No, and the court system does not help in any way, shape, or form.
No, it's actually, I think, very caustic and abrasive.
It is. It definitely is. And we have to remember the attorneys aren't our friends. They have a job to do, and they make a living off how much money they can get out of us.
Yes.
And I've been in the court system, 16 years, because my son's father just likes to go to court, I guess. And yeah. And I've had a few different attorneys, and out of the ones I've had, there was one that I, honest to God, felt like he was fighting for me.
Right.
And I will hold on to him for dear life. Unfortunately, the last time I had to go to court, he wasn't in town. And I didn't know when he was coming back in town because his secretary was not the best. And anyway, I regret not waiting for him to come back because, let's just say I've learned that there's a reason lawyers and, no pun intended with your job, car salesmen have a bad rap.
I hear you.
Yeah, but you're not a car salesman. You're the finance guy.
I'm the finance guy, so I'm a slight notch above that.
Yes. I'm still shocked at the number of kids. I'm sorry, I can't get off that. When Paula came into the picture, and she has no kids.
Correct.
Are you thinking this woman is crazy?
Well, when we first met in 2010, we both used to be, I don't know if she told you, into natural bodybuilding. And I met her at the Gold's Gym nearby. She was getting ready to do her first show, and so was I. And we sort of worked out together a little bit, but she had a boyfriend. She was also 19 years younger than me, and life went on. And as things progressed, and then she broke up with that boyfriend, we started doing more things together as far as working out. And then she would offer to sometimes take care of my boys because she knew I was raising them by myself.
Mm-hmm.
Just as maybe an overnight, and I would get a break because literally I had them all the time. There was no giving them to the mom.
Right.
And we went on I call it our first date, but she disputes that. We went we went on a river cruise here locally, a paddle boat, but it was a wine and cheese night or something like that. And I talked with her about the past and their mom and things. And she has a behavioral and mental health background because she worked with autistic children and adults with challenges mentally. And I knew that she had skills that way to understand kids' behavior and help them out.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same token, I also knew that 7 kids was overwhelming. Most of the babysitters that I had over the years, because I would get them now and then, I'd always say, it's 7 boys. And some of them are older, some are younger, but they are very, very energetic.
Mm-hmm. They're
Are you
boys.
sure you can handle it? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I said, "Are you sure you can handle it?" "Yes, Mr. Bond, so I can handle it." And most of them would last 2 weeks, maybe 3, and then they could not do anymore. And I'm not blaming them because my boys are a handful, and a couple of them now and then would disrespect, which of course I'd put them in line, but they would say things like, "You're not my mom. I'm not going to listen to you."
Mm-hmm.
When Paula came into the fold, yeah, I thought of that because my intention was I was not going to have a relationship with a woman until Caleb would be out of the house, which would make me 63. At the time I was 50.
Oh, goodness.
Because I knew there's probably nobody in the world who would hang around. It'd be impossible. And would it confuse the kids if that woman left?
Right.
But it seemed that Paula would fit into this, and whenever she had them over to her house or she was around them, it went very well. And I thought she had the fortitude to handle it all.
Mm-hmm.
And in the beginning, they couldn't get enough of her because they were starving for the attention
Mm-hmm.
from a female figure, because all they had was me. I was working a lot. It was hard for me to split my attention 7 ways.
Even if you
When
weren't
she
working. I mean, I really think that the kid to teacher ratio in daycare is 1 for every 6 kids.
Yeah, you're probably right. And when she would come over, at first she was not even really a girlfriend in their eyes, was a friend. And they would gather around her and they would massage her feet and give her a back massage. And Caleb would talk about her beautiful golden hair like she was a princess kind of thing. And it worked very well. And we decided to, move in together. Or she'll tell you, one day I went to her house and I just started moving her stuff over to my house. That's her story.
Mm-hmm.
She came into a situation where it was really, really difficult because at the time, 2 of my boys were smoking marijuana in my house and not going to school, getting in trouble. And we were trying to work with domestic relations, which is the only resource you have in that case, to try to get Gunther on the straight and narrow path. Then because she has so much background into how to handle that and who to call and what to do, we did the best we could. But this is the first 2 years we're together was nothing but chaos back and forth. And she didn't run away. She stayed there.
That's amazing. I would have ran.
Yes.
I'm kidding. I know people thought I was crazy for marrying a guy that had 4 kids. So I know that she had people tell her, "Are you crazy?"
Oh, yeah. And we lived, I was renting a home in the city where we lived. And there was 2 bathrooms, but the main bathroom, which is the one everyone used, was shared by 7 boys, myself, and Paula. And the bathroom door wouldn't lock properly. So you can imagine her challenges going in that bathroom with 7 boys who aren't the best aimers or best clean it up kind of boys.
Oh my gosh. I was thinking more privacy, but then when you said that,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, it made me think of a truck stop.
Oh, yeah. At times it could be that way. And she helped me institute, although I always have my boys do chores to pull their weight, she helped me focus a better system to help make sure that they all pitch in and keep the house as clean and organized as possible, considering all the bodies that went through there every day.
Yeah, when you've got that many kids, it's very hard to keep things neat, we'll say. I remember I was used to my house. There was not shoes everywhere. There weren't book bags everywhere. I mean, it was neat and tidy.
Mm-hmm.
But when David and I got married and I moved in here with his 4 kids coming in from school, oh my gosh, the book bags, the shoes, the jackets, it was very overwhelming. And I think I had a little bit of OCD, and I don't know if it's possible, but I had to overcome that because I could not stay on top of it all.
It's virtually impossible.
Yeah, I had to be okay with my house looking lived in versus Better Homes and Gardens.
Exactly. And to add to the challenges for Paula and I, because there were so many kids, at the time when she sort of moved in, the 2 youngest kids, Ethan and Caleb, who were, I don't know at the time, how old they have been, 5 and 6 or something like that. They actually slept in the same bedroom I did. So I had my big bed and 2 single beds are on the floor because they still had, I guess, issues sometimes of being apart from me. And Paul and I would sleep in the bed together with the 2 other boys not that far off.
Mm-hmm.
And Caleb, the youngest, developed the Oedipus complex, and he was very protective of Paula. And actually, if I would go near Paula to hug her, he would push me away and tell me I can't get near her.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm sure that was difficult.
Yeah, that was very difficult. But that was sort of the way I knew that it's probably going to work, because if she can go through all that and still not want to move back to her house, because she still had her own home that she was renting out and then she was living with me.
Mm-hmm.
So she had the out. She really wanted to, but she never went back to her house. And we stuck it out, of course, and through the challenges. But when we moved to our house that we live in now, so it was a house that at the time she purchased, that's when the dynamics started to change, because it was no longer my house that we were living in with Paula there. It was our house, but now it's a different place. And it was Paula's financial abilities that got us there.
Mm-hmm.
And the boys, of course, were getting older, and they started to pull away from Paula.
Did they say anything as to why they were pulling away? Or was it just you noticed them pulling away all of a sudden when y'all moved?
Well, when we moved here in the house together, that was when the parenting styles of Paul and I started to, let's say, clash.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we lived at the house that I rented, she gave suggestions, but let me sort of have the reign and didn't really want to make any changes on how I parented. I'm the kind of parent I'm not a strict disciplinarian. I am, at times, and I know this, a little bit lax. And part of that comes from when I was raising them by myself for 7 years, I literally had to pick and choose what battle was most important.
Right.
There's no way I could keep a handle on everything. It just was impossible.
I mean, I can't imagine even trying to keep up with who's on restriction and You'd have to have a calendar. So-and-so's on restriction from this day to this day. So-and-so, I can't imagine.
Yeah. And I parented out of guilt. I would sometimes set a boundary or a restriction, but I wouldn't follow through because I felt sorry or guilty that their mom wasn't in their lives, and why am I putting more pain on them? And that became a friction point between Paul and I, because she grew up in a household like I did that was very strict disciplinarian, and she wanted the boys to have more boundaries and restrictions, and I wasn't the best at following through. She would come across as the one who was making all these rules, and all the boys would remember was how it was so carefree when Dad was by himself.
Mm-hmm.
And that set up the dynamic of them not liking Paula also, which I take responsibility for. At the time, I couldn't see it that way, but that did not help the situation of them growing apart.
Right. Because here they are, and we went through this with our kids, or David's kids. I do say our kids when I combine them all. But they saw the same thing. Things were great. We got married. I came in. I tried to do the structure, and you break the rules. This is the punishment. And they didn't have that before. And a lot of it's because of the guilty parent syndrome. And a lot of it is also, like you said, there were 4 and it was just David. And it was hard to constantly feel like you were just always, no, don't do that. No, don't do that. Just, there's never any positive when that's all you're doing. And I joke a lot about how when I met David, I thought that he was such a great dad. He had his kids 11 out of 14 days. They were well-mannered. And then all of a sudden, when we got married, his parenting was not up to par. Well, his parenting didn't change. I did. My perception did. And I, too, grew up in a house that my mom was strict. You had chores every day. It didn't matter if your homework didn't get done. You had chores. And you did not push the envelope and not do the chores to see what would happen, because you knew she would knock your teeth down your throat.
Yeah.
And David was raised pretty much the same way. So when we took the 100+ questionnaire thing that we did before we got married, all of our answers were the same except for one. So we're thinking, we're on the same page. This is going to be good. Well, that questionnaire doesn't take into consideration blended families and guilty parent syndrome and all that stuff.
Yeah. And Paula would literally come home, and we would talk about this and have arguments. And when she would walk in the door, she could see, and I would joke with her, 100 things that were wrong and want them all to be fixed. And we need to put more rules. We need more rules. We need more rules. And I wasn't on board at all for all these rules. And that's where we clashed, and it pushed the kids and her further apart.
Yeah, because they realized that she was the one pushing for the rules. And
correct,
she was making you, for lack of a better word, parent them, which they didn't like.
Yeah, they would say either, well, Paula would many times be the one who would be out front. Let's say something would happen and she would notice it. I wouldn't react right away. She would jump in and take control of the situation. And then the boys would, of course, say, oh, it's all Paula. So we tried to have it where I would do something to react to a situation that needed a parent. But what would happen there is she'd be in the same room. And of course, she would look towards me like, hey, are you going to do something? And then I would. So it'd still be the same outcome. They knew it was coming from her and not from me.
Right. And even if she wasn't in the same room, they knew, because it's not how things were before she came in the picture.
Yes. And they would talk about the good times when they could stay up till midnight eating nacho chips and drinking Mountain Dew, and Dad would not know any better because the house we lived in, it was so big you couldn't even know when somebody's awake, and that was one of the reasons why. But also, probably I wouldn't even go up there because
Right.
I'm so exhausted from working.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And our arguments would be heated, and unfortunately, we would argue in our bedroom, which they say you should never do, and the boys could hear it, and that, of course, would add to the splitting or the moving apart because they saw I was arguing with Paul about the discipline or how we were raising kids. They heard that, and it just fed into that whole circle.
Mm-hmm. I've never heard that you shouldn't argue in your bedroom.
Well, maybe I shouldn't. That's my own rule, I guess.
Well, I think that's a great rule.
So we actually started going in the basement where it's harder for anybody to hear, to have discussions. So no little ear would hear what we're saying.
Mm-hmm.
And then we eventually got a sound machine that we put in the hallway. That way, well, first of all, that way the noise is deadened from the outside, but they can't hear voices in the rooms.
Mm-hmm.
And our arguments are very far and few between, probably in the last year or two. So that's gone away. But at the time, probably a week or so, we would get into a heated argument about how to raise the children.
Right. And did you ever feel like you had to choose between her and the kids?
Always. I mean, I told her too. There were some arguments that got really down to the nitty gritty. And I said, if you want me to choose between you and the kids, you know what the answer is going to be.
Yeah.
It's
Bye-bye,
going to be
Paula.
the kids.
Right.
Yeah. Because she would say, you have to do this for me. You have to, whatever she was saying I had to do, follow this rule or follow through on what you're going to say you're going to do and don't back down on it. Or I can't live here. She would say that many times. I just can't live in this household because
Right.
I don't feel like it's my house.
Right. And so did you feel like she was making you feel less of a man with those comments, almost like demasculating you?
Yes, it felt like a personal attack on my parenting skills, and that I am not the man I could be. Yeah, I would say that. I would threaten. We would both do it. It would come down to, well, how about I just take the kids and we live somewhere else? Or she'd say, I'm just going to move out and go live somewhere else because she can't be there. And she even talked about a time buying a house in a city near us that she could, remove herself to and just have her me time.
Right. So not necessarily y'all split up, but
Right.
live separately so she wouldn't have to deal with the stress of being in the house with all these kids.
That's right. And the trigger for me is my background with my mom. Although she raised me, my father passed away when I was 9 months old. She didn't do well, which I'm not saying she should, but she was very, very depressed for probably 2 or 3 years as I was a toddler. So she was there physically, but she wasn't there mentally.
Mm-hmm.
And I have abandonment issues from that. When Paula would say things like she wanted to leave, well, that would immediately send me to that place in my head where my anxiety would go up. She's going to leave me forever. Why is this happening? And it would just spiral out of control.
I was writing something the other day about not using the word divorce flippantly. And one of the things that David and I agreed on right when we started doing the nacho thing was divorce isn't an option. This is going to work come hell or high water. And by taking that statement, when we did have a disagreement, it didn't seem so life-changing or so potentially life-changing. Whereas before, if we got in a fight, I'm thinking, oh, great, we're going to get divorced. I've got to find somewhere to live. I sold my house, which I wish I'd never done. My kid's going to have to go to a different school. All this stuff would spiral in my head. And it was so unhealthy for our relationship. And the kids hearing, well, we'll just split up. that gave them hope.
Yeah.
But it also made them think that relationships were disposable. And
That's
once
true.
we came to that point that divorce isn't an option, I mean, not that we went crazy and did things of, oh, you can't divorce me because we agreed. But when we would have an argument, I didn't have that spiraling effect in my mind because I viewed it as what it was. It was an argument. It wasn't the end of our relationship.
Yeah, that's true. It's a good way to look at it. And that's how we are now, as far as we're in it for the long haul. We got married. Think about this. Well, we married 3 years now. In October 3rd was our 3rd year of actually being married, even though we're together longer than that. When we would get in these arguments, Paula would say about leaving it. We never used the word divorce.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we have ever. No. Which I guess is a good thing.
Yes.
But she would say, your kids are trying to split us up. They want me to leave. That's their mode. They're going to get rid of me, like they got rid of babysitters, like got rid of everybody else. That's what they're doing. And I would say, no, they're not. They're not doing that. I was sort of blind to that. They weren't consciously thinking that, but subconsciously they would think, well, if it's just Dad and us, we're back to normal. We're back to free will and do whatever you want in the household.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, my stepkids, it was consciously trying to get rid of me. One of them would call and say, has she left yet?
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Before he would come back for visitation. But
Wow.
what's funny is he's one of the ones I have the best relationships with now.
Oh, is he?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
No, they never said that. Not that I know of. Because I would always try to tell the boys all the good things that Paula is doing, because she has her strengths and I have my strengths. And hers is the finances and organizing the house, planning for Christmas and birthdays, because there's so many, making sure we have enough money for clothing. Because when you go clothing shopping with 7 boys, it's crazy. And all the good points, because all they saw was she was disciplinarian, and that's where the difficulty was. But we went to therapy, her and I, because we had a really bad spot there. And one of the things the therapist said is about the rules. You can't have so many.
Mm-hmm.
So she asked Paula, what are the 3 things that are most important to you that every day Robert, which is me, can help you achieve to make your life better? So it was no dishes in the sink, making sure that the chores were done, and that the house is relatively clean.
Mm-hmm.
And since we've gone to that, where she lets go of some of the other things, it's been better.
Yeah. And I'm sitting here thinking, how in the world do you not have any dishes in the sink with 7 kids? Because I know one of my biggest things was no dishes in the sink. And I would do the dishes, or David would do the dishes. All the dishes were clean. You would honestly go to the bathroom and come back, and there were dirty dishes in the sink. It was.
Did you have a dishwasher?
Yeah, but we needed 3 of them.
Yeah, that's true.
And even cooking dinner with that many people, it does not all fit in the dishwasher.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, typically, even now there's only 2 boys left here because the other 2 in college most of the time, we usually have to unload and load still twice a day.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I have some come over and they make dinner and it's 7 of us or 10 of us, then you're right. The dishes are still in the sink and you're in the dishwasher.
Right. And David's kids, it would be funny when they would have to do dishes. They would unload and load the dishwasher, but anything else just got left in the sink. And I'm thinking, no. When I was growing up, you did every single dirty dish when it was your turn to do dishes. But no, that wasn't part of how David thought things should be done. So again, it was one of those things of, you got to let it go, Lori. Either do it yourself or let it go. And when I say do it
Yeah.
yourself, that means do it yourself without throwing things and slamming cabinets. And
Well, there was also a time where sometimes Paula would watch one of the kids load the dishwasher, and they probably weren't doing as good of a job as they could do as far as maximizing the space and making sure it's facing the right way.
Mhm.
And sometimes she'd want to jump in and show them that. And privately, I would tell her, look, he's doing a chore. Let's not comment on how good the chore is being done. Let's just have the happiness that he's doing a chore. And then as we go further, maybe we can talk about how to do it differently.
Right. Yeah, because the last thing you want to do is if a child vacuums and they don't vacuum like you think they should, is to go behind them and do it in front of them because they're thinking, I can't do it right. So why bother? And it doesn't help their self-confidence any. But also, I know from Paula's viewpoint, because I lived this, you're thinking, what's the point of them loading the dishwasher if they're stacking everything on top of each other and it's not going to get clean?
Yeah. I know. That's what she would say. It's not going to get cleaned right. Well, you got to change it.
Mm-hmm.
And I would tell her, if you're going to change it, wait till they're completely out of the house or upstairs. And if you want to rearrange it, go ahead, but don't do it in front of them.
Right. Yeah. And then, like you said, there's times and opportunities to show them how to do it differently later without the criticism or feeling like they're being criticized. I remember with one of David's kids, I said, maybe you should explain to him how a dishwasher works. And so he did. You know, this little thing spins, and if you've got stuff on top of each other, it's not going to get clean. And they were like, oh, they just thought if it was in the dishwasher, it would get clean.
Right. That's the magic.
Mm-hmm. And it's really funny. I was at a friend's house, golly, several months ago, and I was helping her pick up some stuff in her house, and she has got an immaculate house. And I opened her dishwasher, and she had bowls facing towards the door. And I said, you do realize those don't get clean, right? And she's 40-something years old. She's like, no. I said, well, let's think about this. And I went through the process of how the water goes through the dishwasher. And she's like, oh, my God. I said, yep, you've been eating off nasty bowls, girl. She said, I never thought about it. But now she probably cusses me every time she loads her dishwasher.
Yeah, probably. Well, and Paula, I mean, I'm a fairly clean person, but she's at a different level. She sees things that I don't see.
Mm-hmm.
I can walk into the kitchen, and to me, it looks relatively clean. I don't see much. And then she'd walk in and she would complain, well, I can't even make my own food because I have to take everything off the counter and sanitize it and make it clean. I'm like, what are you doing? I don't see anything, but there'd be a little dust spot. And so that's a different view of what clean is that comes into play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're thinking, I don't see rats running around. I don't see dirt piled up. It's good. And she's thinking, oh my gosh, those kids, especially boys, I saw him pick his nose and stick his hand in that bread bag.
That's exactly what she would say.
I know. I had my own bread. If I saw them eating potato chips, I would not eat out of that bag because I knew they'd stuck their hands in it.
Paula has her own food area, and we recently, 2 years ago, got a refrigerator, new one in the house. We took the old one, put it in the garage, and that's basically Paula's food out there.
Mm-hmm. And it's great.
Separated.
Yeah. And it solves so many problems.
It does. See, when she met me, I had no boundaries. What was mine was the kids. It was all blended. I didn't care. If I was eating food, they could sometimes really take it out of my mouth and eat it afterwards. Or if I owned something, I would let them use it.
Mm-hmm.
And by her being in my life, she helped me set the boundaries again that, hey, adults can have their own things. They have their own time. They can be nice things, and you shouldn't always share with the kids because they might destroy it.
Right.
And I was so used to the other way, it took quite a while for me to get to that spot. of knowing how to be an adult who has his own life and does his own thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she's helped that.
And it's hard because she doesn't have kids. And that changes things so much because I know with my son, I didn't care if he ate, quote, quote, my food. But if the stepkids did, it was completely different. And so with her, she's thinking, no, that's mine. And it's not selfish. It's just, I don't want to say it is what it is because I hate that phrase, but she's just not used to that sharing. And I remember David sharing drinks with his kids. I love my son, but I do not share drinks with him. Maybe if I was in the desert dying, yeah. And I'm also really big on don't double dip. And everybody laughs at me. And I'm like, do you realize there's bacteria on your teeth? And you're taking a bite of whatever and sticking it back in there. And people think I'm crazy. No, I'm not. I just won't eat it.
No, I agree with that. And all those things she had to come to grips with some way. And we've learned how to separate it so she has still more of her own space, which is why when some of the older boys had moved out, that we took the one bedroom and turned it into the yoga room for her.
Oh,
yeah. So that's where I'm at actually right now. It's her respite where she can watch TV, do yoga, relax, and it has the whole female look to it and well styled, and lets her have her own space.
And that's so important. We were actually talking to a lady in the Nacho Kids Academy last night, and she said, when I come home on Fridays, I don't want to watch cartoons. I don't want to have to sit in the chair that I don't like because the stepkid is in my chair. And I said, you really need your own space, even if it's just a chair in your bedroom that you're comfortable in. We all need that space.
Yeah, I didn't understand that for the longest time because I was so used to everything is everybody's. Come and go as you please, and kids walk in the doors. We actually, when we first moved here, have a lock on our bedroom door that you can open up from the outside with a key, a button pad. And I thought first, you're crazy. What's going on with this? Why are we locking people out of the bedroom? But you need your privacy, and you don't want kids just barging in at the wrong times.
Well, not just that, but especially with it being all boys. She probably doesn't want them to, see her underwear or feminine products or things like that.
When we first met and I lived in the house that I was renting, the boys would eat so much food. And we had a little pantry. I would come home with groceries, put the groceries out, and it would be ravenous dogs go to that pantry and they would devour the snacks. When Paula came to my life, she suggested that we put a lock on that door, not in the sense that they can't get it in there, but to at least control that they don't all go in there and just eat everything at once. Because so we would take a certain portion, put it out where they could get it, and then all the extras put in this locked pantry, knowing that in a day or two they're going to go through the supplies out front, but that way at least they don't do it all in one day. And that was her good suggestion of keeping it separated.
Did they give pushback with that?
Oh yeah, big time.
She's not letting us eat.
Yeah, and it just comes in the end that I was way too lenient by myself, of course, and it was just setting up normal boundaries. That's what it was, normal boundaries. And all I could think of, well, Dad was there. We could do this and this. We could go across the street we had a little convenience store right across the street. We could buy ourselves a fresh Mountain Dew and bag of chips. And sometimes the owner wouldn't even charge me right away. I could come back later and pay for it and go upstairs and play video games to all hours. And Dad would not say a word.
And then comes Paula.
Right?
She ruined their lives.
Yeah. That's how it was.
Yeah.
That's how it was.
Well, I really hate that they're pulling back from her. One thing that David did to help build or rebuild my relationship with his kids was simple things. He would go to the Dollar General to get something, and he would get them all a candy bar. And he would bring it back and tell me to give it to them. And he said, tell the kids you got them this. I'm like, but I didn't get them that. I'm not going to lie. He's like, oh my gosh. I'm giving it to you. You give it to them. And so I would say, hey, y'all come down. We got y'all a candy bar. But it was me giving it to them.
Right.
And just little things like that. As, for example, when we would have the cereal that they liked, he'd say, oh, thank you, Lori, for getting the cereal that we all like. And things like that to kind of rebuild that relationship because we were in a very damaged place.
I can imagine.
Mm-hmm. And it takes time, but, you know, you and Paula are in a great relationship. Y'all have been through so much. And the relationship that she has now that is a struggle with the stepkids, it's not going to always be that way.
Yeah, I hear you. With the getting little things for the kids, she actually has done well with that. And believe it or not, when she gets them things, sometimes they won't accept it just because it comes from her. It's sort of the reverse. An example is she bought everyone new pillows, the boys, because the other pillows were, I don't know, old and drool marks and getting old and ratty.
Mm-hmm.
And she gave it to them, and they ended up keeping their old pillows and not using new pillows. And she became very offended that she went out of her way to do this. They're these ungrateful heathens. Why are they not accepting her gifts or her? And she's done more than just that. And so now, actually, so they accept things. She does all these wonderful things and gets things, and but she tells me, just you give it to them. That way they'll accept them.
Yeah, they're apparently still in a rough place right now, to where they just don't want anything to do with her. And the best thing that everybody can do is just let things work out. Don't push the relationship. Let Paula buy them what she wants to, and you give it to them, and you know, for the time being.
Right.
But again, things will start shifting, and it may take a month. It may take 2 years. And then once you see things shifting a little bit, try to let them know that she did do something for them. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Now I do that now with being an advocate for Paula, because if we go to like this last year, she got a, we were going to take our motorhome and go to the beach for a week, just the boys and I. Driving down there, it developed a radiator leak and I couldn't use it. And she went online, found us a Airbnb, and without really a skip, we made it to the beach that same night, got to the Airbnb, all because of Paula, because she's great at doing that stuff. So whenever I can, I let them know this is possible because of what Paula did. To show them that she's doing these things. Sometimes it's behind the scenes. Sometimes the reason we can go out and you can each spend $200 on clothes is because Paula has been putting money behind every week just for clothes. So it makes it easy.
Yeah. And, you know, things will change. They definitely will change over time. How long has it been since y'all moved to the new house and they started pulling back?
So we moved here in 2015. It's 6 years, and they started pulling it back probably a year after we moved.
So they've been pulling back for a while.
Yeah. Now I have noticed in the last 6 months to a year, Paula has not been as worried or involved with the boys and their discipline and what they should or shouldn't do. And she's been letting me do all of that for now. And then maybe give me some guidance privately. And they've started to come around more, at least what I've seen. And I think she said it too, where they will randomly talk with her downstairs when I'm not there and just talk about things, about life, about school.
Mm-hmm.
And I do see it improving.
Yeah, because they don't feel her or they don't see her trying to control things in the house. And she's not trying to make sure that they have responsibilities and repercussions if they don't do their chores and all that. She's leaving that up to you. So that target is moving off of her back.
Yes, definitely. That's been a big change, a big help.
And that will definitely help the relationship. And again, it'll take time because they've got to see that she's not going to switch back into evil stepmom.
Yeah, and she's been doing her own work. Even before Nacho, she would do other Facebook groups about step parenting and on her own trying to change her perception of things in the household and being less stringent and more accepting of, let's say, dirt or sometimes the noise that boys can make, not knowing they're doing it.
Yeah. Like a herd of elephants.
Up and down the steps.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. It's funny. I was thinking one day that I missed the stepkids, and then one of them came back on, like a leave from the Air Force for vacation or whatever it was. And the first night I hear boom, 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 boom. And I'm like, I did not miss that. They walk like they weigh 1,000 pounds.
Yeah.
And then they jump from like the third step to the bottom. And they're 20 years old.
Yeah. That's what happens at this house.
Yeah. And again, her going from not having any kids, it's like going from a library to a Metallica concert.
Oh, yeah. And she has her own little set ways and she knows it. So it was a big change for her to come to this household.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just trying to gain a little bit of that back.
And it'll come back. First of all, they've seen that she's been there for 7 years. She's not leaving. So eventually they'll realize she's not going anywhere. She's not going to up and leave us. And plus, I'm looking back at the ages, you've got a lot of teenagers.
Yes.
And teenagers don't like anybody.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, right now they're all trying to be independent.
Mm-hmm. You've got a set of twins?
No.
Okay. I see bio son 22, bio son 22.
Oh, that's my fault then. That should be bio son, I think 22. The other one should be 20. That was my error.
I don't know how you keep up with it, man.
Yeah, the closest any of them are 18 months apart. We've already done this math.
So I know with my dad and my mom, they had 3 girls total, and they constantly got our names confused. Do you do that with all these kids that you have?
Sometimes I will. For the most part, I'm not. But there's sometimes where if I'm a little bit heated, I will call them the wrong name. That happens.
That's when it was, when my parents would get mad. They'd be like, darn it, Courtney, Dawn, Lori, whoever you are.
Yeah. Or even if I just, in passing, see one of them in the kitchen. For whatever reason, I'll call them a different name because I'm thinking of that other kid or it reminds me of the kid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that happens.
Well, let me ask you this. In hindsight, what do you think that you and Paula could have done differently in the beginning to not have some of these struggles and issues that you've had?
Probably talked more about our parenting styles up front and figuring out how to blend them together from day one instead of just trying to change from not a lot of discipline to a lot of discipline and not really talking about it.
Right. And I think it would have been good too, not just in your situation, but in pretty much every blended situation, is if those changes started happening prior to the stepmom moving in the house.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's right. Because the kids see it's stepmom, discipline. They go together.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I remember with my son, there were things that he did when it was just me and him that I wanted to break him of before David and I got married because I didn't want him to relate the change to David.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because step parents already have a target on their back. They really do. Disney put it there.
Yeah, that is true. Paula used to say, look, I don't ever get a break. There is no going to the mom's house. I have friends, and every other weekend, they get a 3-day break or a 2-day break. In the summertime, they get a 2-week break. I don't ever get a break. Why don't I ever get a break? Why doesn't their mom take them? And I said, do you really want that to happen? Because I don't think they would last more than a couple hours with her because of her challenges of just keeping herself alive, much less the other ones. But she just wanted some small break.
Yeah. And it's hard, especially when you're slap in the middle of it, to even think that them going to mom's for 1 day every 2 weeks would actually make things harder in some ways. Because we noticed that when visitation changed from 11 out of 14 days for David and went to 50-50, our blend was so much harder because 1 week they had responsibilities, 1 week they didn't. Versus 3 days they didn't have responsibility and 11 they did.
That'd be a big, big change.
Yeah.
And Paula remembers when their mom would come around, which is still sporadic, it would turn the boys into a frenzy because she would say, I'm coming on Sunday. I'm going to be there at 11 a.m. Just an example. And then it'd be 4 p.m. No mom still showed up. The 7 boys are absolutely going berserk because they're thinking, why isn't she coming? I never see her. There's so much anticipation. She promises the world. She shows up at 8 o'clock at night. Wants to take them out for pizza, soda, and ice cream. I come in and say, you got to have them back by 9:30 because tomorrow's school. And Paula witnessed that. And then for the next at least 2 weeks, it would be complete chaos because of their feelings, what had just happened. It was unbelievable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's one of those things of, if you weigh it out, maybe Paula just needs a girls' weekend once every 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, and what she's been doing, she has a camper, and she has been doing short little camping trips during the spring and summer and fall. And she does things with her girl groups and yoga groups to, again, have her own time away.
And that's good. Do you feel like that you tried to push her to be mom to them, or that you were trying to push her back from being mom to them?
It's good you brought that up. I did want her to be the mother. And I would get very angry with her when I felt she didn't want to be the mother because they had no mother.
Mm-hmm.
And so my one of the reasons why I picked Paula in the beginning was she's going to replace the mom that's not going to be there. And when she would say, I didn't have these kids, I don't have the same connection, and I would become very, very angry and upset because I wanted her to replace the mom.
Mm-hmm.
And that became a contention of me thinking, well, second female in her life is going to abandon them too. Now it's 2 women in a row who don't have anything to do with the kids.
Right. So how did you get over that? Or have you gotten over that?
I am in a better place with that. I still feel the pain because, as you said, there's a graduation or a birthday or something that reminds me that their mom should be there and she isn't. Paula is there, but it's because of them and her. They're not as close as I would like them to be. I mean, honestly, that's where it would be. But I realize the best we can do right now is what we have, where they get along. We can do some family activities together. She does her thing for the family very well. I balance it out with what I'm good at with the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And for now, this is what we can hope for. And as you suggested, as we go farther and the kids become older and realize how much she actually has been great for the whole family, and she actually does love them,
Mm-hmm.
it'll get better.
Yes, it will. I can't wait to see the relationships that she ends up having with these kids in 5-10 years.
Yeah, even some of the ones that are out of the house, Zach, who's my second oldest from the 7, recently has gone through some struggles, and I had to help him move to a new place, and he's trying to find a new job. And we were talking last night, and he realizes how much Paula has done. And he said, I really need to get to know Paula better because she's done so much.
Yeah. And you're thinking, oh yeah.
Yeah. And I told Paula that, of course. And she said, I've always had a soft spot for Zach. And so she enjoys hearing those little tidbits when the kids say something.
Yeah. And also, it'll have an influence on the other kids. They'll think, oh, well, Zach loves her dearly. And it'll just kind of influence them to be more open to her.
Yeah, exactly. Gabe, he's the oldest. So when we finally moved to the house together, there was 4: Gabe, Stephen, Ethan, and Caleb. And Gabe is the oldest, and he was, of course, the ringleader. And his reaction to Paula set the wheels in motion for the rest to follow. So he's the one who sort of became negative because he rationalized everything. It's all Mr. Logic, and he nitpicked as to the things that Paula likes. She likes crystals, she likes essential oils, and he would sort of talk bad about that, not in front of me, but to his brothers. And of course, they feed into that. They go, "Oh yeah, you're right," and they sort of all jump the bandwagon of not accepting her as much. That was definitely not a good thing happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Branson was the ringleader of let's burn Lori at the stake and get her out of the house. And once his views changed, it definitely helped change the views of the others because he wasn't dishing that negativity out to them.
Yeah, Gabe's in his 3rd year of college, and he's not been home that much. And he and I had a big discussion about this because I knew he was ringleader. And we came to an agreement where I said, you may not agree with what Paula likes or doesn't like or her views, but I need you to always be respectful and communicate with her and acknowledge her when you're in her presence. And he's always been doing that since then.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's at a better place, and that has helped some of the other boys come along.
Yeah.
And then when Gabe left and it was Stephen, he was now the oldest in the household. He's a very unique young man who can see deeply how things work in life, just generally. And he accepted Paula more and started having long conversations with her. And then I think the kids see that, the younger ones, and that also has helped some of that come back closer.
Yeah. Well, I cannot thank you enough for being a guest on our podcast. And I am so thankful that Paula was crazy enough to come into your house with all these kids and that y'all have made the progress you've made.
Yeah, thank you for having me on the podcast. It was good to talk about this, and makes me realize how far we've actually come.
It's easy to forget how far you've actually came, and it's important to remember because that's what gives you hope for the future.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you again. And I'm going to make a note because we're going to have you and Paula back in a couple of years.
We'd love to do that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, follow up.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lori.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, y'all. Unfortunately, I had to bring David back to wrap up.
Hey, y'all.
Oh, I've got some news. What is it, Lori? Oh, thank you for asking, David. David, you and I are going to... What?
First you tell me to be quiet. Now you want me to speak up. I'm so confused.
You stay in a state of confusion. Okay. I've got some news.
What's the news, Lori?
Good job, David. Next year, April, the 29th and 30th, you and I are going to be in Fort Worth, Texas.
Doing what?
Don't say it like that.
Doing what, darling?
We are going to be speaking at a couples event with Laura Petherbridge.
Ain't that just hunky-dory?
It is. It is.
Call her Lori.
Don't call Laura Lori.
Calling you Lori, goofy.
Okay, he says that because people will say, hey, how you doing? And I'll say, hunky-dory, just call me Lori. Because you know I'm funny like that.
All
so
right.
anyway, we're very excited to finally be doing another event.
Yep. I'm excited to be sharing a stage with my lovely wife.
You're also going to be on the men's panel.
I love being on the panel.
David, what is wrong with you today? Is that
What?
turkey still messing with you?
I'm bloated.
Something's wrong. Well, David really is excited. I'll just speak for him.
I'm excited in this thing I didn't know I was going to be doing.
You didn't need to know until just now.
So what am I doing now? I'm on a men's panel.
I'll tell you again later.
You'll tell me later?
In fact,
Well-
you know what? I'll have Laura call you and tell you because I'm going to let her deal with you.
Good, because I miss Laura.
I know. I miss her too. I hadn't talked to her in a week or so. I need to reach out to her and have her call you.
You do that.
I'm going to. She's going to call you in a little bit. Don't think I'm not going to do it.
That's fine. She'll probably ask me how in the world I deal with you.
David,
What?
she won't ask you that because she loves me.
If she knows you at all, she'll ask me that. She knows
All right,
how
folks.
challenging it is.
You know what, David? All of our listeners know who has the challenge in this relationship, and it is not me. I mean, you. Yeah.
Was that a Freudian slip?
That was just a mix-up of words, folks.
No,
that was just a mix-up
that
of
was
words.
not a mix-up of words. That was your brain telling you the accurate answer first.
No, David. That was just me getting tongue-tied.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I'm done.
Are you?
Yeah, you have just drained me doing this.
Okay.
All right. So wrap it up, David.
Don't say it like that.
Wrap it up, darling.
All right, folks, that's our show for today. We hope you enjoyed listening as much as Lori enjoyed recording with me.
And how much Lori's going to enjoy editing this mess.
Join us next week when we all get to hear Lori's frustration even more.
Are you already planning on aggravating me next week?
I don't know. You plan on it.
Plan on what?
Thanks, folks. And again,
Hope you ain't hungry because I ain't cooking.
all right, folks, thanks for listening today. Join us back here next week.
When David annoys Lori again. Surprise.
Anyhow, I don't know why you want to be that way. Fortune-telling aunt, you.
You button pusher. I don't know why you want to be that way.
All right, folks, thanks again for listening. And remember, life is good.
When you nacho.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Nacho Kids Podcast. Find us online at nachokids.com. Until next time, remember, life is good when you nacho.